what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. Today I have another champion guide for you. Today we're going to cover mid lane Ahri, the nine-tailed fox.
Should I make your pulse rise? Or stop?
So Ahri, in short, is an incredibly strong champion. She gets very good mobility from her ultimate, and she has very good AoE true damage as well from the return of her Q ability. She then also has extremely good single target CC, and Charm is one of the best ones out there. She's a very safe pick because she doesn't really have that many hard matchups in the mid lane, and she's got decent wave clear as well, which also comes from her Q ability. This also gives her some pretty good poke damage, and she also has a very strong lane phase and very potent roams. She is, however, a very skill shot reliant champion, and you must be laning your Q and your Charm. As she is an AP assassin mage, she's also very squishy and extremely vulnerable to CC because she does rely on her mobility. If she gets chain CC'd, she's just going to die instantly. Despite these cons, she's still got a hell of a lot more pros, and she's one of the best picks in the mid lane. For your masteries, you're going to want to go 18 Cunning and 12 Ferocity, grabbing Thunderlord's Decree as your keystone mastery. This is incredibly easy to proc on Ahri since her Q hits twice and her W hits 3 times, which would just proc Thunderlords on itself. It'll add a nice chunk of extra damage into your combos and give you a higher kill threshold. For the rest of your masteries, you pretty much just want to focus on getting as much damage as possible. You're an assassin after all. For your runes, you're going to want to continue getting damage and get Magic Penetration reds, Scaling Health yellows, 6 Scaling Cooldown Reduction blues, and 3 Magic Resist blues, and 3 Ability Power quints. Ahri's generally a champion that's only going to get 30% CDR unless you go for like a Marshmello Nomicon, and a Zhonya's, and an Abyssal, so we usually like to get the 10% extra CDR at level 18 from our runes. Generally, this is because I'll only get the Marshmello Nomicon and a Zhonya's in my build, and I'll usually not get the Abyssal unless I really need that Magic Resist. Of course, for the rest of your runes, the Magic Penetration and Ability Power give you some nice added damage, and the Scaling Health yellows will just give you a really nice health pool since we don't really have any Magic Resist. For your first Summoner spell, you'll want to grab Flash. Even though you already have a really solid multi-use Flash from your ultimate, this is still a must grab since it can create all sorts of different plays for you when you combine it with your Charm, and it can save your life multiple times since you are a very squishy champion. Ignite is then my favorite pick for my second Summoner spell. It will add a ton of extra kill pressure in the lane, and you can get all sorts of different kills that would have normally got away. Now, Exhaust is also a decent option as well. Even though it has been nerfed, it's still really strong against hard matchups in the mid lane and can save you multiple times. These are definitely the most common picks. I mean, you could go for Cleanse and stuff if you were against Twisted Fate, or you could get Teleport if you needed added mobility, but generally, these are the 3 you're going to be looking to use. Your passive is Essence Theft, and this is a really nice ability because it gives you some added sustain. Whenever Ahri hits an enemy with one of her abilities, she gains a charge of Essence Theft and can get 3 charges per ability cast. Upon reaching 9 charges, her next ability heals her for between 3 and 18 plus 9% AP for each enemy hit. So this passive is pretty nice. It's not broken or anything, but it's a nice way to get some extra sustain in the lane phase. You'll easily be able to get 3 charges per ability cast with your Q ability, so you can get this up pretty damn often, and it's a great way to stay sustained. Your Q ability is Orb of Deception, and this is your bread and butter ability as it does a lot of damage. When activated, Ahri sends an Orb of Arcane Energy in the target direction, dealing magic damage to all enemies it passes through, then pulls it back, dealing true damage to all enemies it passes through on the way to her current location. While the orb is traveling, Ahri gains 215 bonus movement speed that rapidly decays to 80 over the first 0.5 seconds. So this ability is fantastic because it has an 880 range, 1700 speed, and only a 7-second cooldown. It's the most reliable damage in Ahri's kit, and considering it also does half of it as true damage, it's pretty damn strong. You can use this ability to last hit and also poke the enemy champion as well, since it does damage to everybody it passes through. Try to line up your targets so you're being as mana efficient as possible. Your W is Foxfire, and it adds some really nice damage into your kit as well. When activated, Ahri summons 3 Spectral Flames which orb her for 5 seconds. After a brief delay, each flame pursues the closest visible enemy, prioritizing champions, and then the targets of Ahri's last basic attack, dealing magic damage. Multiple flames can hit the same target, with each flame beyond the first dealing 30% damage. So this ability here is your next way of adding some more damage into your combos, and the cooldown goes down 1 second every time we put a point into it, so we do want to max this 1 second. That's after we get a couple points into our E ability. With this ability, you'll want to activate it whenever you're going in for a trade, and of course if you do need to just clear up minion waves. It'll do a bunch of damage, and as long as all 3 bolts hit the same enemy champion, it will even proc Thunderlord's Decree. Your E ability is Charm, and this is your really solid CC ability that adds even more damage into your kit. When activated, Ahri blows a kiss in a line, dealing magic damage to the first enemy hit and charming them. This has a 975 range, which makes it great for picking off champions, and the charm duration even scales as you do level it up. Generally, I like to get 3 points in this ability so the charm is actually a decent duration, and then focus on maxing the W and save E for last. The one thing you have to remember with this ability is it is the first enemy hit, and of course it does not go through minions, so people are generally going to sit behind minions and not be able to get charmed. In the lane phase, you'll want to try to open up a gap in the minions and then shoot this through it so you can charm the enemy champion behind them. Of course, you can always use your ultimate to dash forward and then use your charm and follow up with the rest of your kit as well. It's an extremely solid CC, and if you land this, usually you'll have the damage to follow up and get an easy kill. Your ultimate is Spirit Rush, and this gives you some fantastic added mobility and also deals a nice chunk of damage on the enemy champion. It's great for all-ins. When activated, Ahri dashes in the direction of the cursor and fires up to 3 energy bolts that each pursue one of her nearest visible enemies, dealing magic damage. Each enemy can only be hit by 1 bolt at a time. Spirit Rush can then be used twice more within 10 seconds of activation at no additional cost before it does go on cooldown. So this ability only has a 30% AP ratio, but you can hit one target with it 3 times, and you can hit 3 enemies at a single time. The damage isn't even the best part of the ability though, it's all of that added mobility. You can easily close a gap on a target to get off either your charm or your W ability, and then you can use it to dodge other skill shots. When you're fed and you have a lot of damage, you can use one use of this ability, delete one single target, and then use the other 2 to jump out. It's an absolutely fantastic ultimate, and it gives Ahri that added mobility she needs to be an assassin. For your skill order, you'll first want to put a point into your ultimate whenever you can at 6, 11, and 16. Then for its high damage and poke, we want to max our Q ability, Orb of Deception. We'll then want to make sure we get 3 points in our charm ability so the charm duration is long enough for us to get off our combo. Then we'll want to focus on maxing our W second for its high damage. For our trading combo before level 6, we'll want to hit the enemy with a charm and then instantly follow up with our Q and our Foxfire. This will do a pretty decent amount of damage, and on a relatively squishy target, it should do at least 50%. This of course is assuming you've recently bought, and the enemy champion doesn't have a lot of magic resist. If the enemy champion's hiding behind minions, try to open up a gap and shoot your charm through it. For your all-in combo when you do have your ultimate, you can use your ultimate to jump over a wall or minions, and then land your charm ability and your Q and W again. At this point, you can use your ultimate to dodge skill shots or just add some additional damage, and wait for your other abilities to come off cooldown. When you use your ultimate properly, it's going to add a lot of damage, and you're going to be insanely hard to lock down. During the lane phase, you'll want to try and poke the enemy mid laner and last hit at the same time with your well-aimed Orb of Deception. Don't spam it too much, however, when it's level 1, because you're rather mana hungry, and the damage is pretty little when it is level 1. You'll then want to look to try to land your charm on an enemy, and then follow up with an easy to land Orb of Deception and Foxfire. This may be a bit hard to do against certain champions because they're going to be hiding behind minions, so try and shoot it through the gap in the minions right after you kill one. When you're level 6, you can all-in the enemy by dashing over the minions with Spirit Rush and land an easy charm. In teamfights, usually you're going to want to try to land your charm on a really squishy enemy so your team and you can delete them and have an advantage in the fight. You can use the mobility from your Spirit Rush to catch somebody off guard and then delete them. Now as Ahri, you even have the option of peeling. If you're around your AD carry and the enemy assassin engages too quickly, you can use a well-placed charm to save your AD carry's life and then delete the assassin with their help. More often than not though, you'll want to use your superior mobility to dive onto the backline and delete somebody after their crowd controls have been used, and then jump back out with Spirit Rush. Now we're going to look at some hard matchups, and keep in mind Ahri can win pretty much any lane, but these are some champions that can give you at least some trouble. So first here is Anivia, and she's a champion who's incredibly strong right now and has an insane amount of burst damage. Against Anivia though, as long as you can dodge her Q ability, you should be fine, but if she does land it, you're going to take a massive amount of damage. Wait until her abilities are in cooldown, and keep in mind you may want to save onto one charge of your ultimate to jump over her wall when she uses it. Next here we have Annie, who's a relatively easy to play champion that can 100-0 you whenever she has her stun and Tibbers available. Her ranges however aren't the best, and she does lack mobility, so whenever she has her stun or Tibbers available, don't go anywhere near her. Poke her down as much as you can and wait until you land a charm till you all-in her. Next here we have Fizz, who is the champion you have the lowest win rate against, however it's almost 49%, so your life isn't that bad if you're an Ahri player. Against him, you're probably going to want to hold onto your charm more often because he is going to try to all-in you, and if you don't have your charm available, he's definitely going to be able to do it. If however he jumps onto you and tries to go for an all-in, you can just simply charm him if it is up and walk away. Unless you're way ahead, you'll want to play more defensively than usual and spend more time roaming. Last here we have Swain, who's a tanky champion that has a lot more sustain than you, yet still does some pretty damn good damage. This lane may end up just being a farm lane, so you have the option of just farming up until you can delete people, or roaming. Both are really good options, but unless you've picked up some kills and you're getting way ahead of Swain, then generally you're not really going to be able to 1v1 him too much. Last here I'm going to cover the item build, which starts with a Doran's Ring, health potions, and a warding totem. For your core build, you want to go for a Morello Nomicon, Luden's Echo, and a Rabadon's Deathcap. This will give you 20% CDR, a bunch of ability power, and some really nice movement speed, making your roams even more effective. If you were against a hard AP matchup, then you could get an Abyssal Scepter early on instead, and if you were against a hard AD matchup, then you could always get the Zhonya's early. If this is the case, then I'd usually get either of these instead of the Luden's Echo. As for your boots, well, I usually go for Sork Shoes for some magic penetration, but you could always get Ionian boots as well if you want 10% CDR. For your item pool, of course, first we have the Abyssal Scepter and the Zhonya's. Both are great ways to get 10% CDR, and I'll take a Zhonya's almost all the time, but I'll only get the Abyssal Scepter if I really need that magic resist. Next here we have the Void Staff, which is pretty much a must-buy on Ahri since she is an assassin and she needs to get through magic resist in the later stages of the game. Hextech Proto Belt is also a pretty decent item that does add a little bit more burst. I don't take it a ton myself, but I did in this gameplay, and it's definitely fun to screw around with. Rylai's Crystal Scepter used to be a must-buy on Ahri back in the day, but you don't pick it up too much, but if you are looking to add a health pool or some added slows, then it is still a really good item. If you're against a really tanky lineup, then Liandry's is definitely a viable option as well, so you can burn away some of their health pool. Then last, if you felt like you weren't bursty enough, although honestly you are, you could get a Lichbane. With this item, you're going to have to make sure you weave in some auto attacks in between your spells so you do more damage, but it will really increase your burst damage. For my example full build, you'll take that core build, get some Sork Shoes, and then the Void Staff, and a Zhonya's. You'll have a crazy amount of ability power, a really good defensive from the Zhonya's, and with this 30% CDR and your runes, you're also going to be CDR capped. But that, ladies and gentlemen, pretty much covers everything I've got for Season 7 mid lane Ahri. Don't forget to check out the video description below for a link to all my social medias, and I also have my Discord server and Twitch down there as well, so you should definitely check it out. I'm going to do a 24-hour stream this weekend, so if that's something that interests you, make sure you head over to Twitch. As well, if you guys did enjoy the video, please like and subscribe, but other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take it easy, and peace.